Hello, hello everyone. Hi. That's what I'm talking about. We want to give some time for folks to find their seats. We're going to begin in like 2 minutes, 1 minute. We just want everyone, we have some folks still in the halls. We want to make sure everyone is seated so we can begin. Thank you so much for being here. It's so phenomenal, honestly, to see all of your faces. I actually have the pleasure of thanking our sponsors. We want to give a huge shout out to Washington's Lottery, Rosaire's Supermarkets for the amazing flowers on the tables. Aren't they great? Yes. The Office of Independent Investigations, thank y'all for supporting us. The Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office, we thank you. The Washington State Department of Services for the Blind, thank you so very much. And Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board, thank you. Let's give them a round of applause, y'all. I get to welcome you and welcome our phenomenal director of the Office of Equity. Let's give it up for Megan Matthews. We have a good message. Hold on real quick. Let's give it up for Amber, y'all.
I'm a shorty, so hopefully y'all can hear me. I'm just going to say this quick thing in Spanish for our Spanish speakers. Buenos días, si necesita escuchar el programa en español, tenemos aparatos de interpretación ofrecido por José Chavez y su equipo. Pueden encontrarlos en la mesa de servicio de asistencia aquí en la sala de afuera. So, por favor, agarren sus aparatos. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you, Trey. Thank you, Amber. She is amazing. We are really, one of the things I'm really proud about in our office is that we have so many incredible people representing from across Washington State who can help us make sure that we are doing our best to be inclusive for everybody and to make sure this space is welcoming for everybody. So thank you, Amber. So first, I'm going to do our accessibility statement. The Office of Equity is committed, yes, Megan Matthews. Hello. She, her pronouns. And I'll just say really quickly, I'm the director of the Washington State Office of Equity, but I also have been a state employee for 16 years. And I am just so excited for the work that we get to do together. Now I'll do our accessibility statement. The Office of Equity is committed to making an inclusive and welcoming event where we are all free to participate in the way that is most comfortable for us. To make this space more inclusive, we would like attendees to know that there is a quiet room stocked with sensory bags and prayer mats and yoga mats for those who would like an undisturbed space and some little peace and quiet. A lactation room clearly marked and located in the convention center. It's that way. The quiet room's that way. Caption recordings will be made available after the conference. If you have questions about navigating the space or need anything to fully participate, please visit the accessibility table near the front of the convention center. And as a reminder, we have some virtual ASL interpreters, and so space for folks who need ASL, the first 3 tables in the front. And the Wi-Fi password, ready for this? Okay. Is meetings, all lowercase, MEETINGS. And yeah, Yakama Convention Center is the title. Okay. Welcome and good morning, everyone. So raise your hand if this is your first equity convening. Whoa. Wow. Wow. Welcome and thank you for coming. Raise your hand if you have attended before. Oh. Thank you for coming again. We are really excited to be with all of you. Since we're in Yakama, please be sure to check out all the small and locally owned businesses. I know it's tempting to just pop over to Starbucks, and no shade on Starbucks, but be sure you're getting out and around town to check out the local spots, right? We're in Yakama, let's support Yakama. Thank you to the incredible team members at this convention center for this space and for all their support and all this amazing food we're going to eat. Thank you to the amazing TraeAnna, Melissa, and Tanisha. Melissa and Tanisha, if you're in here, can you stand up, please? Oh, there's Melissa over there. Where's Tanisha? There's Tanisha back there. So these three have really put a lot of time and effort and hours into this event. And I am grateful because if you were here at our first Governor's Summit, you know, it's just a small team of us and I was running around all hectic and I'm no longer running around hectic now. So I just really appreciate them for being here. So thank you three so much. And actually all of our team members helped make this event successful. So I just want to thank all of our equity team members. And I also want to do something. Can you stand up, our Office Equity team members? Can you stand up, please? Turn around, let people see you. Turn around, let them see you. So I just want to show the representation that we have in our office. When folks talk to me about equity, they're like, well, who's represented? Right? Because we always tend to think in zero sum, right? If we're doing this for someone, then somebody has to be left out. And I wanted to share that we have such beautiful representation. There's the representation, the diversity that you can see, but there's inside so much that makes us all unique individuals, right? So I wouldn't say we have 100% representation, but we have a lot of demographic and geographic representation in our office. And I just wanted you to see the beautiful representation that we have. And Trey will have a slide of us later so you can also see that. The purpose of this space. So we are here because we believe that we need to make government accessible to all in Washington. People who live in Yakama deserve to have direct interaction with government and not just through a screen because we host our agency events in Olympia or Seattle. All that, and that also goes for folks who are in Spokane, the Tri-Cities, Vancouver, and other cities across Washington. They deserve to interact with us directly, and so for my state colleagues, please look at hosting events across Washington state. We're also here to learn from each other, those that are representing community organizations and also our state colleagues. We're really trying to challenge ourselves to think boldly, be bold, be change, right? And creatively. This is a space for innovation. This isn't just about learning. Oftentimes say, we just want to learn more, we're going to learn more, we're going to learn more. State folks, we have to change behaviors. We all have things we can change. Our office is constantly learning and changing, and for any of you, y'all don't know, we was changing stuff even a couple of days ago. The reality is none of us know all the answers, right? I mess up all the time. I don't get things right, and I will apologize for that. But I believe that if we are committed to a Washington for all, together we can make real progress. So I want to challenge each one of you. Make your commitment today, if you haven't already. What is your para pledge? How will you publicly commit to tangible action? This para pledge is more than a commitment to learning, so please don't put that as your commitment, because we are always continually learning. Your para pledge should be about action. What specific actions will you change to make a difference? If you've never done it before, start small. Commit to treating each person who comes in for services with respect and empathy. Commit to reviewing one policy for ways it disproportionately impacts different community members. I often hear from my state colleagues, well, where do we find community members from? Where are the organizations? We don't know where they are. There's 7 million people in Washington state, right? So commit to showing up to local community events. That's an action all of us can take. In our office, we actually have that as a standard. That's how you'll grow your network. It won't happen just because you hope or wish it will. You have to take intentional action to connect with people so that when you're ready to collaborate on a project, you already know where you're going and you're not asking the same people over and over and over again. Ultimately, government must change, and we must change significantly and quickly. There are several significant challenges facing our state in this 21st century. We must meet them, and we must meet the need of all. We cannot accept a margin of folks who we leave out. Marginalization, right? Just want to make that connection for you. So we must meet the need for all. We don't have time for incremental change, and we don't have time to be comfortable with the change first. Yes, we must be thoughtful about how we change, but change we must. Also, we must prioritize our community members. I'm in too many meetings where we are prioritizing our own comfort and feelings. I hear how other agencies may not be comfortable with the change or are concerned with something that's unknown or even just an imagined outcome. We must stop this. What is right for the people we serve, and are they in the space with us helping to make those decisions? If there are only a bunch of state employees making the decisions, we're going to make the wrong decisions. And only because we don't, oh, okay. Somebody's awake out there, right? Somebody's awake out there. And it's not because we're inherently bad. It's because we don't know what the need actually is because we're not the ones who will end up utilizing the services. Prioritize this risk. What is the risk of not serving everyone in our community? What is the risk of one person going unserved? Let's prioritize that and then make the decisions accordingly. There is something each of us can do. Do that. Please do that. I'm challenging myself, and I'm looking forward to holding hands with you to move this great state of Washington forward to a Washington for all. Thank you.
Y'all, let's give it up for Director Megan Matthews one more time. Wow. We have representation here, and we want to make sure that we make space. Up next, we like to invite the Yakama Warriors to post colors. Let's give it up for them, y'all.
I'm not used to these microphones. United States Army. If you served in that branch, please stand up and be proud. United States Marine Corps. United States Navy. United States Air Force. Next, we have the United States Space Force. They are so new that we don't even have music for them. Nor do we know what they do. United States Coast Guard. We also honor the Merchant Marines. They bring us they were the lifeline between the United States and Europe during World War II. A lot of those folks passed. They brought us our beans, our bullets, our bandages, and most of all, most importantly, they brought us our beer. At this time, please stand for taps and Amazing Grace. Please be seated. Again, we are honored to be here to present the flags. Thank you again.
Wow, what an honor. Let's give it up again for the Yakama Warriors. Thank everyone in this room and online for your service. Thank you all. Well, we have welcome and invocation up next. Chairman Jerry Lewis was unable to attend, but we are so excited that his public information officer, Star Diavolikis, I'm trying to get it right. Star is here. Let's welcome Star to the stage, y'all. Diavolikis.
Shechmaitsky, everyone. Inkna Shwainsha Haslu. Good morning, everyone. My name is Khaslu, and my English name is Star Diavolikis, and as said before, I am the current Public Information Officer for the Yakama Nation. I'd also like to give another thanks to the Yakama Warriors. Fun fact, my mom and dad are actually both part of the Warriors Association, so they've seen me for the past 10, 11 years as I grew up and got into this big girl job, so. And again, I'd like to send my apologies on behalf of our tribal council. Today is seemingly a Monday on our end, so everything that could go wrong with our schedules went wrong today. But that means y'all get to see me, and I think that's totally fine. So again, my name is Star, and I'm here to welcome everyone to the territories of the Confederated Tribes and Bands of the Yakama Nation. The Yakama Nation is protected by the Treaty of 1855, a treaty that was signed between 14 tribes and bands in the United States government. The treaty is not a set of rights given to the Yakama Nation, rather it's a set of rights that we retained by the Treaty of 1855. We have been and always will practice our traditional rights throughout our 1.3 million acre reservation and throughout our 11.5 million acres of treaty territories. While honoring our past and practicing our ways of previous generations, we also work to be good partners and neighbors to those within our reservation and treaty territories. Any work that we do is in honor of generations past, present, and future. So now if everyone can please stand while I give a quick prayer to Creator and pray along in your own way as you see fit. Creator, I'd like to thank you for giving everyone the opportunity to be here today. It's really heartwarming to see a room full of people who are actively doing work in their day-to-day life to find new ways to create a welcoming, inclusive, and safe environment for our future generations. It is something long overdue, and I would really like to thank you for giving all these people the energy to get up and be here today, no matter what they are currently going through. I'd like to thank you for letting everyone get here safe. I'd like to ask that you follow everyone home and make sure that they get home safe and that everyone is in good health and has a good time. Nai. Thank you.
Oh, y'all, let's give it up for Star one more time. Wow. Thank you for stepping in. We appreciate you so much. Now it's funny because we had my introduction later on in the program. I get to be your MC for today, and I'm so excited to have you all here. I'm TraeAnna Holiday, the Communications Director for the Office of Equity. We welcome you to our 2024 annual convening. And be bold, be changed. That is the theme this year, and we really want y'all to experience that throughout the next 2 days, not only with what we're sharing here in this main stage, but also what you're going to experience in the workshops later this afternoon and tomorrow. So we are thankful that y'all are here. We want to start this off with a really awesome exercise in mindfulness. Up next, I get to bring our executive assistant to the stage, Miss Dana Van Ness. Let's give it up for her, y'all.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much. Buenos dias. Thank you. I'm Dana Van Ness. Yes, I'm the executive assistant for the Office of Equity. My pronouns are she, her, and we, and us, because I am you, and you are me. It's good to see all of you today. You all look so beautiful. I'm grateful that you made it here safely. I know that sometimes getting up in the morning, you have to rush out the door, and it's a blessing to see all of you here and in one piece. Join me in a personal gratitude for you arriving here safely. Just say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, welcome, change makers. Before we embark on this transformative journey together, let's take a moment to ground ourselves and connect deeply with our shared purpose. This visual meditation will help us center ourselves and connect deeply and center our intentions on fostering pro-equity and anti-racist systems and practices, building relational partnerships, and envisioning a Washington state for all. So now as you're sitting there in your seats, I'm gonna ask you to sit comfortably and relax. And as you're doing so, find your natural breathing, gentle, soft breaths, but intentional. And as you're sitting there, make sure that your backs are straight, but relaxed. I'll give you a couple of seconds while you wiggle and get comfortable. And as you're sitting comfortably, I'll ask you to continue to take slow and intentional breaths. And my sound person, can you increase the volume of the music just a little bit more, please? That's nice. Thank you so much. As you're sitting there, take deep breaths in and slowly release. Deep breaths in and slowly release. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a vast, serene lake. The water is calm, reflecting a clear blue sky. This lake represents the collective spirit of our community, where every ripple symbolizes an act of courage and commitment. Deep breaths in, slowly breathe out. Deep breaths in, slowly release. Picture a diverse tapestry of people standing around the lake with you. Every individual is unique, yet all are interconnected by the same desire for belonging and justice. See the vibrant colors of their clothes blending harmoniously, symbolizing unity and diversity. Find your breaths, breathe in, slowly release. You are welcome and you are safe. We are grateful that you're here. Breathe in, slowly release. Visualize extending your hand to the person next to you, feeling the warmth and strength of their grasp. This gesture represents forming meaningful partnerships grounded in trust and mutual respect. Breathe in, slowly release. You are a blessing and a gift, and we are so grateful that you're here to join us today. Feel the energy of solidarity flowing through your connection, amplifying your collective power to affect change. Breathe in, Picture the landscape around the lake transforming. Trees growing tall, wide, and strong, and flowers blooming with the fullest potential of beauty and radiance. Let these be representative of our own growth and renewal. Imagine the spaces around you filled with strong communities where everyone feels seen, heard, valued. Breathe in. Slowly release. The air buzzes with the excitement of innovative ideas and collaborative efforts aimed at dismantling systemic inequities. As you take another deep breath, feel the courage within you rising. This courage is the fire that fuels your commitment to pro-equity and anti-racism. It is the boldness required to challenge the status quo and advocate for transformative systems change. Inhale from your mouth. Pulling air from your belly, release it through your mouth. And now finally, see yourself stepping forward, leading with your heart and mind. With every step, feel the ground beneath you solidify, symbolizing the strong foundation of your resolve. Hear the echoes of your steps as others join you, creating a powerful chorus of voices united for change. Take your final breath, deep breath in. And as you exhale, open your eyes. Carry the images of unity, belonging, and courage with you as you move forward in this event. Let them inspire and guide you in every interaction, every discussion, and every action that you take. Remember, change begins with each of us. Be bold, be change. Together, we can create a Washington State for all. Thank you. All right, now before I step off the stage, I'm going to take a few more minutes of your time. I want to affirm you in this event. Can I do that with you all this morning? Can I affirm you? Yeah? All right, so with these affirmations, if you hear some words that inspire you, that make you want to clap or snap, maybe you want to jump up, do it. Allow this energy to move through you and inspire the people that are sitting next to you, okay? We're not here to be shy, we're here to be bold. We're here to be change. Are you all ready? All right, I affirm that you are a force for good and for better. I affirm your bravery in this work is remarkable. I affirm that your presence here is a sign of your dedication. I affirm that your presence is a blessing and a gift to us all. I affirm that you are a beacon of hope, lighting the path toward equality and opportunity. I affirm that you are a catalyst for progress, ensuring opportunities are accessible to all. I affirm your commitment to creating innovative approaches for a better future. I affirm that your voice is powerful and essential to creating lasting change. I affirm that you do have the power to transform systems. I affirm that your innovative ideas are the seeds of a more inclusive future. I affirm that you are an advocate for those whose voices are often unheard. I affirm that your vision for equity is becoming a reality right now in this moment. I affirm that you are making a difference, one difficult and sometimes heavy step at a time. I affirm that you are instrumental in building stronger communities where everyone flourishes. I affirm your belief in the power of being in community and gathering in order to make change. I affirm your resilience in the face of adversity, unnecessary challenge, and naysayers. I affirm your ability to lead with integrity and on purpose. I affirm that together we are stronger and more impactful. I affirm that your efforts are laying the foundation of a Washington for all. I affirm that your work is building a Washington that truly belongs to all. I affirm that your efforts assures that everyone thrives and has the resources to succeed. I affirm your boldness inspires others to be courageous. I affirm that you are a change maker and that every action you take matters. I affirm you are creating a legacy of inclusivity and belonging. I affirm that your insights are invaluable to our collective progress. I affirm that you are a champion for change and that your energy fuels the movement for change. I affirm that your willingness and strength to challenge the status quo is commendable. I affirm that you are creating ripples of change that will be felt for generations. Thank you.
Y'all, let's give it up for Dana Van Ness. Woo! I gotta tell you something. Dana does this for our team, but she turned it up 10 notches for y'all today. We didn't know how she was gonna do this, so thank you so much, Dana. Those affirmations got me pumped up. Are you pumped up out there? Oh, I hope y'all can feel that online. Be pumped up, yes. Up next, we have our Deputy Director, Andrew Chin, who's gonna start us off so we can really use some time to build relationships here. We talk about this convening being a space to bring us together, but oftentimes the schedule is so jam-packed, you don't have time to get to know who you're sitting with. You don't get to have time to understand the people that are here. So we are going to give you some specific time to do just that. Let's welcome our Deputy Director, Andrew Chin.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Andrew Chin. I use he and him pronouns, and it is just fantastic. The view up here is fantastic. A room just full of equity warriors. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for being here. At the Office of Equity, one of the things we really do is build time in our meetings to cultivate relationships, and it helps us understand and get to know our coworkers just in a greater way. It builds stronger team connections, it improves our project collaboration, but most importantly, it allows us to see each other as full humans. And it's so much more important these days because we're all working virtually, and we don't have that time in the office when we just get to know each other. So we want to include that as part of our agenda for you today. You've come together as part of our We the People convening, and we want to intentionally make that time for you to connect with each other in those similar ways. And for our virtual participants, we haven't forgotten about you. You can participate as well. So on your attendee hub at the top of the screen, you'll see 5 options that says home, schedule, community, exhibitors, and more. You'll hover over community, and in the drop-down, you'll see discussions. Just go ahead and select that, and you can share your responses and connect with each other virtually. So we'll bring some sample questions up here on screen, and we'll just go through these. So at your tables, just share with each other, what's the latest cultural activity you've participated in? What do you enjoy doing outside of work? How have you centered equity in your role, family, or community? If money didn't exist, what would you do? This one's my favorite, but also could be controversial. We're gonna ask you to really go on a limb here. What are your 3 favorite bands and why? So I'm looking forward to that. These are sample questions, but feel free to ask other questions that may come up or dive deeper into other topics that you at your tables want to dive into. And please just remember, this is meant to be a fun activity. So you're welcome to share just at whatever level you are comfortable. Make space for others to do the same, and just enjoy the time to connect with each other and learn something different, learn something new about each other. And we will spend the next few minutes doing that at our table. So please meet and make some connections. We'll be back with you in a little bit.
All right. This is what we like to see and hear. Sounds like y'all were having some good conversations. Sorry I had to cut it short. Was that fun or what? Yeah? You into it? Okay. You're into it. All right. Well, we get into something fun right now, and we get to share out our annual report. This is for us a way to showcase some of the work that we've really been focused on this year. And our year goes from June, the end of June, up until the end of June. So for us, we're excited that this year, not only as we grew, that meant we had more hands and more expertise to bring to the table. So we get to share that out with you all. First, we have some of our office updates, which for us was a big deal as we established our first organizational chart that really focused on getting fully staffed. So huge shout out to our operations team led by our operations director, Amanda Maxwell, and our team. Thank y'all so much. As you can imagine, the hiring process is something that's very specific, and yet at the same time, you think of HR and you think, oh, it's already baked in. But we really wanted to take things a step further, and so our onboarding process has been more and more solidified with our folks in the operations team. Shout out to you, Beth, for all the work that you brought to our office and your expertise. Thank you. Up next, you can see our organizational chart here, and this is really, this is the bird's eye view, because our organization has grown so much that if we put the chart up here, you would not be able to read it, right? So we wanted to make it clear for you that we were able to establish our benches, and that's really important to us as we build out this body of work. And you're gonna hear throughout the day, you know, this is the first time an Office of Equity at the state level has ever existed. We are so thankful to all that made that happen, and to Governor Inslee for making sure that our office was solidified during his administration. But we also had time to build out what this looks like. What do we need to focus on as the Office of Equity? And that's what this organizational chart represents. We definitely needed to make sure that we had our community advisory board, which is a part of our mandate to really guide us and make sure that we have an open door for community members across the state to be informing us of how we do business. And so we're really looking forward to building that body of work out now that we have our amazing advisory board, program managers, Logan and Cara. Thank y'all so much for the work y'all are doing, and to the Community Advisory Board team members who are here. Shout out to some of y'all. I see y'all out there. Thank you so much. We also, as you can see, Dana leads our administrative services team, and she's phenomenal, but she has a team of phenomenal folks who now can really assist all of our benches with the work that they need to do. So we're grateful for them. Our tribal liaison, yes, absolutely. Our tribal liaison, Isak Sicha, is here as well. Y'all saw him. He was guiding the color guard and the Yakama warriors through. And he also has a new team member, Casey. Thank you all so much for the work you're doing to make sure we're connected to our tribal communities and tribal members. Thank y'all so much. Our Deputy Director, Andrew Chin, y'all heard from him earlier. He gets to wrangle us all in, and we appreciate you so much, Andrew, for your leadership and years of state expertise that he has really brought to the table to make sure we understand the rules, y'all. He has a very specific job, and we appreciate you for it. Also, we were building out our legislation and policy bench this year. Shout out to Omar, our Legislative Director, and his team member, Patrick. They have been touring and all over the state, connecting with legislatures all over the state. So thank you for that work. Of course, I lead communications, and this event is a huge part of what we do, but y'all will get to see some of the other stuff we get to do later on in the program. Huge shout out to my team. Also, I want to give a special shout out to our digital accessibility communications coordinator. Nope, digital communication accessibility coordinator. It's a long title. Vic Vong, who really helped make sure that our presentations were accessible. Vic keeps us on target for all accessibility needs. Thank you so much, Vic, for all you're doing. Vic is one of our global moderators online. So if any of y'all virtual attendees need help, Vic is there for y'all. And we were also able to establish our access and accessibilities bench with our director, Jordan. Thank you so much for all the work you're doing. And we now have a disability specialist and a language specialist also. We're excited to be building that body of work out. Also, our innovation and performance team, who really works towards accountability and data and brings that all together. Shout out to all of y'all and their director, Caitlin McNabb. And of course, our equity and belonging bench. And I'll tell you, for me, when I joined this office, I understood so much of this work through the work of this bench right here, which embodies our peer consultants, our pro-equity consultants, and our shared power consultants, now under the guise of the director, Nicholas. So exciting to have all of these benches represented for our office. Next, I get to talk about our office growth. And this year, we grew, y'all, from 12 employees to 40. Now, that's definitely something to celebrate. Megan talked about the diversity of our office, and we do have some team members who aren't here, but we had to show you our staff collage so you can see this is the representation of the Office of Equity. Wow. We appreciate every one of you for showing up day in and day out, making sure that your cape as a champion of equity is waving proudly with the wind beneath your wings. We thank you so much for all the work y'all are doing. Up next, we really get to share how we developed our first strategic plan. And I want to give a huge shout out to B Hill. Thank you, B. This work is important because it anchors us in terms of what it is we are working to accomplish in a year, in any given year. And so we can show you our design. I get to give a huge shout out to Melissa again, because Melissa's full of talents, y'all. And the next slide here shows the actual strategic plan design. Thank you so much, Melissa. It looks great. But this plan, again, is really supposed to anchor us in what we're doing. And every year when we create our annual report, we want to make sure that these two bodies of work speak to one another. So as we anchor ourselves in the work we're doing, we're also reporting out to you all how we accomplish that work, where we may have fell short, where we exceeded. That's what transparency in government is. And it's another way that we really focus on to model the way. So when we think about our highlights here, modeling the way was very important for us. This is something that flows through every one of us at the Office of Equity, because when we think about how we need to set up Washington state government to truly be a government that is for all, that means that we have to take it on ourselves to figure out what that looks like and how we work together to make it happen. We also utilize robust communication strategies to model the way for how we talk about and engage with community on our work. We co-create with agencies and state employees and community members to make sure our work is solidified in community and meeting the needs of Washingtonians. We also work to bring that accountability, because we can't do that work without measuring ourselves for our success and ensuring that we have a standard that we begin to spread across the enterprise so that agencies understand how they are measuring up. This is a part of truly establishing practices and policies and approaches to this work that are not only being modeled through our office, but are also being exemplified throughout the enterprise. That's what our team is about, and that's what we were able to really focus on. The great thing about this year's annual report is these three pillars we aim to always showcase to you all year over year how we're doing these things. How are we measuring up in terms of modeling the way? What changed from one year to another? What does it look like when we talk about co-creating? How did we go deeper to co-create more solutions that are resonating throughout different agencies across the enterprise and within communities? And how do we continue to ensure that agencies are set up for success with their accountability through data and reporting? For modeling the way here, we were able to do several things. We created a digital equity campaign using multiple communication channels, spreading the message throughout the state and into hard-to-reach communities. Digital equity is an example of how we did it, but it isn't the only one. We get to hone in on that because it was an opportunity for us to bridge the gap of communication in a way that really reached great numbers, and y'all will see that later on. Through our co-creating, we launched this event right here last year. So this is just really the second year of this event, where we are going to be always intentional to bring community and government together so y'all can connect, build, learn from one another, establish relationships that not only are here, but that go into your work. So for any of you that are state employees, we want to make sure y'all are building relationships with other folks in different agencies and with people in communities who are on the ground doing the work. This is why our We the People convening is called We the People, because all of us are a part of being Washingtonians, and we have the opportunity to make sure that Washington really is for all. This Washington for all theme is something y'all will be hearing more and more from our office as we work to showcase what that means so that it's real for Washingtonians, because it has to go beyond a great tagline. We also collaborated with amazing contracting and procurement professionals to find ways to begin to improve state contracting and increase supplier diversity. Now, this is really the beginning of this work. And for me, it's one of the greatest things that I think we're doing in our office, because when we talk about establishing processes, approaches, and policies to ensure that small businesses throughout the state have an open door to contract with state government, that goes from one generation business to a multi-generation business that really anchors families in Washington state with real generational wealth building opportunities. We are a huge procurement entity in terms of the state of Washington. So the opportunities for us to open the door for more contractors, for those who are doing great work in their businesses, but just haven't had the opportunity to get on to statewide contracting or to figure out how they move from being a registered OMWBE business to being one that is actually doing business with state agencies. Those two are different, right? We have to change that. We have to really showcase true solutions that say, wow, I inherited this business from my dad, who established an amazing connection with the state. And now we are always in the know of contracting opportunities that allow us to continue this business. So now I can pass it on to my son. That's the kind of stories we want to be hearing from people in Washington state. For bringing accountability, we truly developed our consultation process. And this is why I got to give a huge shout out to the Equity and Belonging team, because this work takes time. This is not something that could have been done in 1 year or 2 years. This takes time. And as we continue to build this process out, all of these agencies will begin to experience what pro-equity consultation is and begin to learn the shared power principles from our Equity and Belonging team. We talk about pair work often, this pro-equity, anti-racism work, but when we talk about it, again, it's another thing that needs to be moved away from just a tagline to something that people are experiencing in their agencies, and the clients that we serve, the people that we serve of Washington state, are experiencing it in their families. That's really the goal for us. We also truly changed our reporting cycle. We recognize, like, folks are not ready yet to report out, so we have to help along the way. So we established a longer reporting cycle so that we can cement ourselves for success moving forward. Here's a look toward the future for some of the things that we are excited to continue and to go deeper with. We talk about growing our communications to reach statewide, engaging and informing everyone who lives in Washington on the activities we're doing, not only at the Office of Equity, but throughout the state. How can we uplift all the great work that is truly changing lives for Washingtonians that's happening throughout the enterprise? Some of that work we may not even be a part of, but we recognize the importance of it, and we want to make sure we make space to connect with other communications directors, that's my job, and others who are reporting out great work in their agencies. For any of you who were here last night, you experienced our first ever Pair Star Awards ceremony. Were some of y'all there? This is a time where we really get to acknowledge and celebrate those throughout the enterprise who are doing great work, because it is important that they understand not only that they are seen, but their work is truly changing Washington government. That's what it's about. We want to also keep collaborating to improve equity in Washington State's hiring practices and our equity competency. Now, this may sound like, what is that? What is that? Well, when you talk about what equity is, it can mean something different for a lot of people. We need to raise our collective consciousness to understand what equity really is about and how it is impacted in your specific role or specific agency, because it is different for so many of us. What does this look like from the community side when they are doing this work in communities with nonprofit organizations and institutions that are impactful in their communities, whether it be educational, nonprofit, someone dealing with homelessness, another one dealing with youth gun prevention. Like, these are the kinds of entities we want to be connected with so we can understand how they are building equitable approaches, and we can learn from that and bring that into state government to really share the knowledge and the lessons learned about equity. I want to tell y'all something, because equity, this is a slow moving wheel. It took us hundreds of years to get to where we are today. And so if we think about the impact we're making any day of the week, any day of the year, we have to understand that this is very slow progress, but we have to keep turning the wheel. We can't allow the resistance to stop us from making bold choices. Am I right? We want to continue to convene with our partners to build out the universal access plan. And I'm so excited that our access and accessibilities bench is going to be making those connections and establishing that framework. So when we talk about this, now we have something tangible to showcase what it means, what it looks like, and how we're all involved. We're going to continue to improve access for small businesses to Washington's contracting system as we work on some of those barriers that we're hearing directly from businesses that they experience, like the lengthy process of actually being registered as an OMWBE business, or being registered and still not having access to contracting opportunities. These are the things we want to change. We also look forward to building out our framework for accountability, tracking the activities and the outcomes in relation to the 15 determinants of equity that we have established at the Office of Equity. Now I get to introduce you up next to our annual report video. Y'all, we talk a lot, right, in state government. One of the things that I really get excited about is personalizing this work. We personalize this work by giving opportunities for our employees in the office to show their faces on camera and share the work that they do. So, of course, we do the documents, but we also want to make sure that we make it fun. And that's what I say here in this video. Let's show them the video.
Hello to you all. I'm TraeAnna Holiday, the Communications Director for the Office of Equity, and I'd like to invite you to our 2024 annual report video. We like to make our work engaging for you all. So while we do create an annual report document, we also like to show you some of the people behind the work as they share some major accomplishments of their teams. Okay, it sounds like somebody's knocking to be let in, and I think it's our director, Megan Matthews.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm the director for the Office of Equity. And this past year, we have done a lot of work. As you can imagine, putting this event together takes a lot of time and effort. Shout out to our equity event managers Melissa Davis, and Tanisha Roberts for their time, energy, and dedication to ensure that this event is welcoming, informative, and engaging. I'm so proud of the work of our entire team, and there is a lot to celebrate this year as we introduce some key pillars of our work around co-creation and collaboration with agencies and community, modeling the way with our communications, and setting the standard for accountability. Throughout this video, you'll hear from members of our team as they uplift the great work they've been doing. We invite you to connect with us and be part of our efforts to embed equity into Washington state government, as this work takes us all. You'll hear that from us often, as we know the importance of collective participation in the work we do. I'm excited to introduce you to our Deputy Director, Andrew Chin, who was hired this year to help us build out our leadership team, our staff, and connect further within the enterprise. Andrew, tell them some of the ways we've been making an impact with our intentional approaches to our body of work.
Thanks, Megan. First, let me say that I'm happy to be on this team of folks who are thrilled about the work they do, day in and day out, making equity a foundation for state government. I've been able to bring my energy to these efforts and bear witness to everyone who pours in to achieve our objective of making Washington government equitable for all. We recognized that we had to offer more opportunities for us to come together, so we launched several events to connect state employees, share expert knowledge, and create safe spaces for our solidarity.
Hey folks, I'm Jean-Paul, another SharePod consultant, and I'm thankful I got to work with my co-host Kalima Ujama and Nadine Nabas, along with the business resource groups Build, Happen, Latino Leadership Network, Washington Immigrant Network, Disability Inclusion Network, RAIN, VERG, and the newest business resource group, Sovereign, and last but not least, Employee Assistant Program for the Solidarity Gathering Series. Thank you for your continued support and partnerships. The Solidarity Gathering is a space for state employees to connect with one another about our lived experiences and collective grief around events happening in our communities. We want to dispel the notion that world events are too taboo to bring to work, when the reality is they can have an impact on all of us. We don't want anyone to suffer in silence, essentially. You can stay connected to these events with the same subscribe button and hold space with us in solidarity. Thank you.
Great work, team. There was also a lot of effort to bring in experts for our Equity Events Learning Series. This is dedicated to closing the gaps of knowledge by learning from equity experts. And we're excited to continue this series in 2025 as we increase the knowledge, skills, and ability of our workforce throughout the state. And as the communications director, y'all, I'm pumped that we got to inform Washingtonians of our commitment to digital equity with a robust communications campaign that reached outstanding numbers. We partnered with a statewide contractor to distribute TV commercials and ads that highlighted our Digital Equity for All campaign. We used different campaign assets to spread the message, from website takeovers to TV commercials. For our homepage website takeovers, we featured a customized backsplash and top page and side page ads in English and Spanish. We also included social media posts, streaming, display banners, and spotlight articles for a total of 6,357,380 impressions. That's truly exciting for us. We look forward to producing more campaigns as we work to inform everyone in Washington about the work we're doing. In addition to that, we also brought contracting and procurement professionals from various agencies together to focus on ways to improve statewide contracting and supplier diversity. Now, this work will continue in 2025 as we hone in on solutions that remove barriers to access for small businesses and change policies to make contracting more equitable. Our innovation and performance team also worked on accountability through reporting. Isabella, what should folks know?
That's right, Trey. Hi, I'm Isabella Rivera, the Statewide Equity Impact Analyst. And this year, we worked to expand the agency reporting timeline to set up agencies for success as they report on their pair work and pair teams. We increased the performance period to 18 months for this year's reporting cycle. And we did this to ensure that agencies have time to establish their pair teams and begin to create their processes for embedding the recommendations from those teams into their workflows. This longer reporting period will also help set a foundation for accountability as we establish a 12-month reporting cycle for 2025 and beyond. We are excited to institutionalize the PAIR framework to make government more relational, people-focused, and collaborative. Shifting government to this new culture will aid in creating accountability that produces better outcomes for all in Washington.
Awesome. Thanks, Isabella. There's a lot of work that we did this year that reflects our values and vision, like meeting with state legislatures and the ethnic, racial, and social justice commissions to build relationships and strengthen collaboration. Establishing our access and accessibilities bench to provide language and disability access solutions throughout the enterprise. Cultivating and stewarding tribal relationships and co-creating a revised performance measure guide with results WA and OFM budget. As you can see, our staff was fully engaged in ways to put equity at the center of state government operations. And when I put my hat on as a community member and Washingtonian, it's truly encouraging to know that all this work is happening within our state. While we continue to make strides to advance equitable solutions, we remind you to reflect on ways you can do the same in your work or role, in your family, and in your community. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to sharing more as this work evolves.
Oh, that's so fun for us. Thank y'all so much. I get to give a huge thanks to the team and our video production staff. Thank y'all so much. That's fun for us. I now get to bring up our Deputy Director, Andrew Chin, once again. We're gonna remind y'all of the amazing resource tables we have out there. And I also have a couple of other reminders. We have some phenomenal swag bags for you at registration. If you have not picked up your swag bag, please do so at the registration tables. We have enough for everyone, okay? So we want you to get those amazing swag bags. There's some great stuff in there. And later on, before we break for lunch, I want to just make an announcement that we have meat options over here, and we have the salad bar and vegetarian options over here. I'll give it over to Andrew.
It's always hard coming in right before a break, I gotta say. I'll make this quick, everyone, don't worry. So one of our core beliefs in the Office of Equity is that we just cannot do our work. You know, we can't change systems in state government, and we can't create a state that fosters belonging without the community. And why is that? Right? Community is who government is here to serve. And if you look throughout history, communities have come together and created organizations and filled the gaps that we've left behind in government. So it's critical in our office that we connect with the great work that's happening in communities throughout the state. And that's why it's so important for us to have resource tables at our annual convening so that everyone gathered here today can also connect to that great work. We have over 40 organizations tabling with us here, and yes, that number is astounding. It's 40. If you were only in this part of the lobby, please head to that end and go around the corner. We've got a lot of tables around there as well, if you weren't aware. But over 40 organizations, and over a third of those are based right here in Yakama. And I will say, on behalf of the office, I'm just honored that the community accepted our invitation to join us here. And I can't go through the entire list of everyone's here, but these are just a few of the highlights. Rod's House is here, and they envision an end to youth homelessness here in the Yakama Valley. There's a vision for Independence Center for those who are losing their independence due to impaired vision. Yakama Pride is here, driving positive change for the LGBTQ+ community here in the Yakama Valley and Central Washington. Yes, and Casa Latina is outside, whose vision is full participation of the Latino community in the economy and democracy of our country here. Yep. The Yakama Valley Community Foundation, whose work focuses on equity in education, health, and civic engagement. And Better Together Foster Care, whose sole purpose is to help foster youth. So we have 20 minutes built into our agenda coming up next to go visit the tables, and we'll have another 20-minute break later in the afternoon. So this is my invitation to all of you here. During those breaks, just keep those cell phones in your pockets. You don't need to check the email, but instead, please go visit the tables. Listen to the incredible work that's happening in our communities and learn about the barriers that they're facing. And this is my challenge to you. Ask yourself if there's anything you or your organizations can do to remove those barriers. And for those of you who are joining us virtually, what I'd invite you to do is think about how you might go out to meet organizations in your community and do those exact same things. Because it's going to take all of us working together to advance equity throughout our systems. So with that, I get to release you all on your first break. Please be back at 10:35 for our first plenary speaker.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. I am so grateful to everyone who set up a resource table today to make sure we really were providing resources for you all. Was that nice to be able to check in at those tables? All right. Now we get to really shift here and do a community spotlight focus for our next three presenters. And I'm really grateful for all of them for being here. The first presenter we have is Anthony Powers. He's going to talk to us about American Justice and Equity Group. Let's give it up for Anthony Powers, y'all.
All right, thank you, everybody. And thank you, everybody in the room for showing up in person and everybody who's showed up virtually. So where am I going to see my slides at? Right here? All right, if I can get my slides up. Either that or I can bring my laptop up. I'm jumping off, so I don't know what's going on technically, but I'm gonna go grab my laptop because that's what I gauge my stuff off my speech off of the slides. And I really wish we had the slides because the visuals, helps you see exactly what it is I'm talking about. But the spiel is entitled Expediting Equity. All right, so in the interest of time, because we have to get back to Western Washington for something that the governor's Can we just skip ahead past the next slide, which is the video, and just go to the one following that? So when I first built out this database, I was wondering in 2017, why is it that Amazon can predict the music you'd like to listen to or different orders you'd like to do? But we see in the criminal legal system how the racial disparities and inequities that exist there, especially with Black and brown people. Why hasn't anybody used modern technology to address some of those issues so that we don't have to wait 2 to 6 years for our college to do a study like the 6-year study that showed us, this was by the University of Washington, that showed us Black people in Washington State were 4.5 times more likely to have the death penalty side against them than a white person who did the exact same thing. And let's not forget what the death penalty was in Washington State. The default was to get hung. So Black people were 4.5 times more likely to get lynched for doing the same things the white counterparts did. And it took a 6-year study from the University of Washington to urge our state Supreme Court to abolish the death penalty. So why is it that nobody used modern technology to identify these things? So working with a team at Microsoft, I was able to build my idea out in 2020. And we built out a dashboard that's filterable and available to the public, where you could do a lot of these searches that it would take universities 2 to 6 years in a matter of minutes. And but I also believe that if you're gonna do something to have impact, you have to make it available to the public. It can't be hidden behind closed doors, because there has to be accountability. Next slide. And this year, we had an international team assembled to build out one of my, it's not recent ideas, actually, TraeAnna had her morning show. I was talking to you about this a few years ago. But it's about the school to prison pipeline. People know how the school to prison pipeline has affected Black and brown children for decades. Still yet, again, nobody's ever used modern technology to find out how to identify things properly. So this year, we built out the first ever school to prison pipeline, comprehensive pipeline, and props to Data for Black Lives and Blacks at Microsoft for helping out with that. But we'll be able to identify all across Washington State where the problem schools are. How do school resource officers interact differently with Black and brown children versus white children? How do schools operate differently when it comes to suspending these kids and pushing them out of class? And even another element that I hadn't heard anybody in the school to prison pipeline conversation speak on is looking at the data and looking at patterns historically out of that school to see what is a kid most likely to go to prison for. So as an example, in Grays Harbor County, their high school has a real problem with domestic violence. So it might show you the culture inside the school. So if you have people in the community working with the kids in the schools, you have a more targeted approach to say, well, how do we help them turn around specific behaviors? So it's using data to make a difference and data to create true equity in Washington State. Next slide. I believe in standing up to power without being abrasive, because at the end of the day, you still need allies, right? So one of the things then in the criminal legal system dashboard, if you went online and you look at the county, if you click at the little side arrow, then it'll have every judge in that county. And then when you click on that judge, it'll show you how that judge treats people if they're Asian, if they're white, if they're a Latinx, if they're Black. And you can see that judge's individual report card. So when we first created it, judges came to me and they're like, look, we don't like this. And my response was, with all due respect, I don't care. Because I said, the reason I don't care is because you get taxpayer dollars. This is your report card to the public who's paying your bills. So we should expect you to be equitable towards people. We shouldn't expect you to treat people differently based off age or race or gender. We should expect you to treat everybody equitably. You have those false statues with the blindfold saying justice is blind. You all know that ain't the case. As long as you have human beings in there administering it, then you can have human beings doing human being things. So my hope with this was, and that we've had a lot of feedback and now judges are more inclined, is let a judge see where they're at. And if they're truly about being just, let them make the adjustments. And if they're not, let the public, let the community know who to vote out and who to vote in. Next slide. So I've gone all around the country talking about this, and I usually don't worry about who's in the room because there's only one version of me. It's like what you see, what you get. Not worried about it. But I went to the one, it's down in Southern California. It was a national conference. And the room just looked different. I was like, man, it's like 90% white dudes. It reminded me of a number. 91% of prosecutors are white dudes, right? So I'm talking to some of the organizers of the thing. Come to find out, I'm talking to a room full of mostly prosecutors and cops. So when they start introducing me, and they say equity, they get to the word equity, I see a bunch of them in the audience, right? So in the moment, I was like, all right, change of plans. I'm gonna connect with these people, and then I'm gonna show them our issues. Because if they don't feel connected to, they're not gonna listen to our issues. So I changed up my presentation. And being that the dashboard is filterable, I put in the filters on top to bring up these two cases on the bottom. And I explained that these two cases with people who were the same age, 20 and 21, in the same county in Washington State, Snohomish County, in the same year. These two cases had one white guy, 6'5". He had a co-defendant that was half Mexican, half white, 5'8". They go to do a drug deal. At the time, is weed, right? So, I mean, back when marijuana was still illegal. And they go to do this drug deal, and they end up shooting the guy, killing him. The other case was a 6'5" white guy who had a co-defendant that was half Mexican, half white, 5'8". They go to do a weed deal, shot the guy, killed him. Exact same physical description, exact same case. But as you see on here, one set of guys got 20 years more than the other. One set got 48 years and 36 years. The other ones got 28 years and 16 years. The difference, one came from an upper class family. The other one came from a socioeconomically depressed family. So what I sold to these prosecutors and police is, I said, look, we talk about equity, we need to talk about equity for everybody, including socioeconomically depressed white people. And they're like, oh, you got a point. You got a point, all right. No, they're no longer crossing their arms and frowning at me, right? And then after I said that, I said, yeah. And then, look, the most egregious cases are actually African Americans and Native Americans, depending on what county you go to. They're always at the top. So I was able to show them how African Americans and Native Americans actually get hammered way harder, but now they're receptive because I said something that they related to. Said something they related to without compromising my values, but you still have to make that connection. Next slide. It's about making our values attractable, right? I think sometimes we get caught up in our own echo chamber. We lose sight of the fact that King County is bigger population-wise than Central and Eastern Washington combined. But we still bring King County talking points to Central and Eastern Washington. We get caught up in our own echo chambers and we pat ourselves on the back, but we need to communicate with people in a way that they relate to if we really want things to change. If you talk about the people who are really behind the systemic racism, we need to find a way to connect with them to get them to change their minds and change course. But if we never find a way to relate to them properly, all we're going to be doing is patting ourselves on the back and thinking we're actually accomplishing something, and we're wondering why generations later nothing really gets changed. So we need to have some of those tough conversations and take the accountability ourselves and really be strategic. When you talk about pro-equity, anti-racism, we're selling a product, a change product. And if you're really going to sell something, like in business, you need to know how to market it to different groups. And we need to stop just thinking about how to market it to ourselves so we feel good, but think about how we need to market it to the people who are really the problem. Next slide. I really believe there's also a need for us to have a comprehensive game plan. Being in the community space, it seems like a lot of times, anytime the trend of the day comes along, we're like, oh yeah, okay, let's do that too, yeah. Okay, let's do that too then, right? Instead of saying, this is the objective, how do we stay the course? We know it's been going on in this country for hundreds of years, and how do we, stay on track, right? But in order to do that, we need to know exactly where we're going. We need to know exactly what we're looking for. And we need to have a comprehensive game plan. There's brilliant people in the Office of Equity, there's brilliant people in this room, there's brilliant people online, and there's brilliant people who aren't even attending. Next slide. So how do we identify those brilliant minds? I remember reading in the 90s about this philosopher. This is like over 1,000 years ago, but he was talking about when you want to change anything, first, work on yourself. Then work on your household. Then work on your neighborhood, then work on the broader area. And if you look at those like 4 levels, people who have really done the work themselves, people who have really done the work in small groups, people who have really done the work in mid-sized group, people who have really done big, large, organized work. How do we not only identify those individuals, but how do we train individuals to help them come along? So that we don't have level 1 people in level 4 spaces. Because I know there's a lot of people, not to be offensive, but I've heard some of the, older white ladies in Seattle. I want one, right? And they just want somebody to be in the room just so they can say that they got somebody in the room. But we need the right people in the right room, the right people in the right spaces so that we can really make the progress. Can you imagine if I said, I want to build out these databases and I just want somebody who likes to code? Nah, I want somebody who's on point. And when we have the right people in the right spaces, we can actually get stuff done better, in my opinion. And I actually put this picture up, right? This is me, my partner Blaze. In DC. We're dressed down, we were dressed nice. I was doing the national launch for American Equity and Justice Group at Georgetown University. And I got injured. I woke up in the middle of the night, I felt something pop on my side. Doctors still don't know what it was. This is a few years ago. But it was some of the worst pain in my life. I was like, what the hell's going on? So this is like 3 in the morning. So I called Blaze, because I brought him over there just so he could watch it. I was like, bro, meet me in the lobby. And I knew what he was bringing. So I was like, look, it's 4 hours till my speech, or actually about 6 hours till my speech. I said, I need you to fill in for me, because I got to go to the emergency room. But I knew who I was dealing with. And he's like, man, he was nervous. I was like, bro, you got this. Just talk about this, and this. And then he went and killed it, right? It's knowing who to have in the right spaces. And it's not to say to exclude anybody, because I believe in empowering people. And one of my slogans is create, build, and pass off. I don't believe in holding on to stuff. I believe in empowering other people and growing the movement. So it's just about really identifying where somebody's at in their personal trajectory and helping to get the right people in the right spaces and train other people up so that they can get into those higher levels as we move forward. Next slide. This is just an idea. It's new. Maybe you like it, maybe you won't. I think you'll like it. But I think one of the problems that we've run into is not having measurables, not having true measurables, right? We tell our white allies, we want you to do X, Y, Z, and then say, what exactly, how do I measure where I'm at? It don't matter, there ain't no, you can't do enough, just do it, right? And can you imagine if you're running a race and it just says, hey, just keep running. I might give up 100 feet to the finish line if I don't know how far I'm going. But if I know what the objectives are, then it'll help me in this. So this pro-equity skill that I'm suggesting we develop, and this is just, like I said, this is stuff that I filled in as an example. If you look at it as 0 being neutral, and then you got +1, +2, +3 going on up this way, -1, -2, -3, that's the racist side. It allows people to identify where they're at, and it allows people to know, well, how do I get to a place where I'm really doing what I need to be doing, right? We need to have measurables, and we need to have things where people can, get to where they need to be. And we need to identify it. It can't be a vague concept. It needs to be specific and concise. Next slide. I threw this in here as an example. I'm not, this ain't the brag, this is, you know what I'm saying? No, seriously, it's an example because I was born in Portland, Oregon, into a house that became one of the first crack houses in Portland. By the age of 16, I had 77 years in prison. I was told that I would have never amount to anything. First thing I did, I decided to change the prison system. Everybody thought I was crazy. They're like, oh, really? Okay, you're gonna change the prison system. So I formed the Redemption Project. I ended up teaching over 2,000 people. It spread to every prison in Washington State, and it changed the prison system, right? I was released from prison due to a US Supreme Court decision that built out a statewide reentry system, and this dashboard. This is us meeting with the president of Microsoft and his team, right? And just earlier this year also, for this dashboard, they inducted us into the Microsoft Hall of Fame. So, I'm not trying to hear anybody talk about what ain't possible. A lot of times we'll stay in our comfort zone and we don't want to address the hard issues, like I said earlier, about targeting messaging towards the people who are really the racists and the problem, and finding ways to connect with them and then turn them. That's a good thing about human beings. Human beings can change. You can grow, right? So, I don't really believe in the whole concept of that ain't possible. We can't do it, because I believe we can do it. And I'm inspired by the generations that came before me, seeing the African Americans who accomplished great things and other people who have accomplished great things, but I'm saying my personal inspiration would help me out, would help me change my thinking. And I believe, last slide, and I believe that we can come together and do great things. So with that said, I figured I'd put my contact information up here. Like I said, I have to run to Western Washington, but I'll be back. We'll be at our booth tomorrow. And I thank for everybody for all the great work you're doing, and look forward to the continued progress. Thank you.
Yeah, I just got to share something really quickly here because Anthony is being very modest. He is rushing right now to the governor's mansion to be pardoned, and tell him this is the first ever pardon for...
This is the first time somebody's been granted a pardon for a murder one on the merits in Washington State.
So, thank you. Thank you. So, I mean, honestly, I gotta say that That's what we talk about in terms of modeling the way. It does have to happen from multiple levels, as Anthony said. And when we talk about the governor recognizing not only the work that he's done, but that he deserves this part, and it's truly remarkable for our state. So really excited. Let's give it up one last time for Anthony Powers, y'all. Wow. All right, we got him out on time. Up next, we get to hear from some phenomenal folks who are leading the way with Next Cycle Washington. Let's give it up for Kamal, Patel, and Lily Copenagle.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kamal. This is Lily. And once my slide comes up, there we go. So yeah, we'll be talking about mapping resilience and risk. We did this for the, like TraeAnna said, Next Cycle Washington. It was a prototype we built with funding from the Department of Ecology. It was a 3-month project building on multiple years of systems mapping work with BIPOC communities and tri-sector communities, public, private, and community. And we're here to show the prototype early so we can get more partners, co-design this with you, and develop this with other people doing this work. Next slide, please. So what we're trying to do is showcase community-focused resilience. And a theme we heard with multiple mapping work we did with private, public, and community was this idea of communities doing the work. And so what we're trying to showcase is examples of community doing the work, in this case, Next Cycle, but being supported and funded by public and private sectors. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna show examples, next slide, please, of these projects with a background of the risk and threats to their resilience that they're facing. So our goal here with the map we're gonna show is visibility and overlaps of risk of community risk and threats. And so Lily will be presenting on the Washington Health Disparities Map and how she overlapped it with FEMA's Threats to Resilience Map. And then next slide, please. And what I'll be showing is examples overlapping on top of that map of ideas, projects, businesses, nonprofits, of communities doing the work around community economic adaptation to climate change and community-focused circular economies. And so I'll be explaining what circular economies are later, and that will all be projects showcased by Next Cycle Washington. But for now, next slide, I'll let Lily talk about risk, and take a second.
Hi, everyone. I'm a walker, so I'm gonna take this with me. Is that all right? Okay, awesome, thanks. Next slide, please. Thanks. So yes, as Kamal said, I'm Lily Copenagle, and I use she or they pronouns, and I'm with Equity Analytics Group. I'm a data scientist, and I was excited to partner with Kamal and the Next Cycle team to utilize some data to contextualize the experience of communities. As Mr. Powers was talking about so beautifully just a moment ago, I think one of the most powerful things that data analytics can do is to make what can be opaque transparent, and to really allow folks to visualize or even feel the experiences of other people. And so we saw an opportunity with this project of looking at how risk and resilience can be communicated to communities on the ground, but also to funders, to say, where are these really important moments that we can take these opportunities to take action, to use the resources that we have to make the most impactful change. So how we started with this is we looked at a lovely map that was created by the Washington Department of Health, and it's called the Environmental Health Disparities Map. And what they did This is not my data, but what they did is they looked at individual census tracts and assigned an index number to each census tract. And the index number will be higher if, and represented here by a darker color, if the communities in those census tracts experience higher environmental risk from a bunch of sources. So that could be pollution or exposure to toxins or other environmental hazards. And it also identifies where the populations are that are most sensitive and most vulnerable. Next slide. Thank you. Oh, and for accessibility, for folks who are low vision or blind, what we're looking at here is a map of Washington with each census tract presented in a range of color densities. And so that's what I'm talking about when I say darker colors. Each census tract is visually represented with a different intensity of color. So this is another map of Washington where each census tract has a different intensity of color, but in this map, a darker color indicates that the communities in those census tracts have a higher risk to, a higher threat to their ability to be resilient after experiencing a stressor. So that could be a pandemic, or it could be a wildfire, or things that we know happen all the time. So this is looking at where are the communities that have lots of resources, and those would be the lighter shaded census tracts here, and where are the communities that have fewer resources, and those would be darker shaded in this map. And part of why we liked combining the last map that you saw with this map is that this map includes economic, health, and social factors. Okay, next slide, please. So what we did is we said, so in looking at the real experience of a community, we want to be able to express visually and communicate to other people where a community is both at risk of experiencing stressors and will have the hardest time recovering from those stressors. And so to do that, we literally just smushed them together very scientifically and mathematically, smushed them together and created a new map. And this map, next slide, does the same thing, but now, and again, for accessibility, we're looking at a map of Washington with each census tract shaded with a either darker, lighter version of the same color. And now in this map, we see that the darker the census tract shading indicates that those communities have both the most risk and the most threats to their resilience. And so our hope in this is that through this very scientific smushing, we're able to show to people who don't live in these communities what those communities already know, which is what it is like being in a community that has more environmental threats, more exposures to pollution, more exposures to health threats, and to be less resourced. And so visually, really quickly, folks who have funding, folks who have opportunities to make change can zoom in and identify cross-sections of opportunities with real need in a way that hopefully will be more accessible and more readily available for the decision makers. So I think I will stop it there and hand it back to Kamal.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lily. Yes, wonderful. So next slide, please. Perfect. So Now that we have an understanding of the background of what we're trying to lay examples of resilience on top of, we are going to be showing examples of communities doing the work, show community economic adaptation to these risks and threats that you just saw, and these are circular economy examples. Next slide, please. So this is the prototype. We're calling it circular resilience, and hopefully by the end of this you understand what circular is and how it relates to resilience. So it's a community-focused circular economy example. So those are the green dots that you see on this map. This is a year-old map now. Again, it's just a prototype. So these are just old examples, but you can see these are places where funding and technical support through Next Cycle Washington is going. Next Cycle Washington is funded by the Department of Ecology, Department of Commerce, King County, City of Seattle. So we're seeing where money is flowing and where money is not flowing and their risk. At the bottom, you can see different profiles, different percentages of risk that those communities or projects are facing. So they can go to different areas, different funding sources to explain their need. Next slide, please. So you can do two more. So these are examples of circular economy projects through Next Cycle. So the first one is BIPOC community doing repair in the Seattle area. So circulating materials. Next slide, please. Second one is community reuse in a rural community, sharing tools with each other, making things more affordable to fix. Next slide, please. And then the final one is a community experiencing high barriers to employment and jobs, doing community-focused deconstruction of buildings and rebuilding buildings and things for their needs. Next slide, please. So these are examples of circular economy. And you need one more slide. And so all we're doing is instead of taking materials, making them into something and throwing them away, we're reusing them, we're returning them, we're recycling them, we're repairing them, we're composting them. And in this case, we're keeping them hyper-local in communities by communities. And that to us is an example of resilience. Next slide, please. So this is us laying the same data on top of the equity, the environmental health disparities map, so we can look at state funding to see, hey, this community needs more state funding. How do we use this map to direct more funding to those projects? Next slide, please. There was also one more, which was the FEMA map, which we could potentially look at federal funding to see how can we get more federal funding. So here's examples of hyperlocal resilience, things like compost, energy, education, spaces, reuse, repair. Next slide, please. And we think these are important resilience tools, things like clothing or food, finding ways to find food to go to the right place, medical supplies, tools. So this is a circular economy that's community-based, and we think building community from the community, building resilience from the community. Next slide, please. So our findings from this work is, we know this is sensitive data. We're showing examples of community doing the work. We need to be good data stewards. So how do we get people at the table to co-design this with us? That's why we're here showing this work early. Next slide, please. We believe this shows visibility of funding flows. We think that's really important and powerful. So hopefully you can see that. We also see the gaps of where funding is not going. Next slide, please. And then finally, we think resilience is a common language that works across from BIPOC communities in an urban area to rural communities in white communities in a rural area. So we think this is a bridge term. Next slide, please. Finally, our questions that we're hoping to do, how might we co-design this with others doing this work? How can we show more funding and technical support to communities? Not just for the circular economy, but beyond the circular economy. We think this applies to other ideas, so we're curious what you all think. Next slide, please. And how might we be good data stewards? Who else is doing this work? And lastly, this is a chance to tell collaborative stories. There's lots of stories of people doing positive resilience work. How do we share that equitably with them at the table? And final slide. Thank you. We're Equity Analytics, Traversal Design, and Next Cycle Washington. If you're a project, especially in this area, but in general, doing projects around circular economy, you can take a picture of that. Find us at Next Cycle. We have an application live right now. Come and see us later. Thank you so much for having us.
Great work. Let's give it up again for Kamal and Lily, y'all. Thank you so much. Great work happening in our communities. We get to continue with our final presenter for this portion of the program. I'm really excited to bring up Rosalinda Guyen from Community to Community. Let's give it up for her, y'all.
I don't have any slides. You get to listen to a farm worker. So, thank you. So I am a farm worker who worked in the fields of Skagit County, grew up, started at the age of 10 as a professional farm worker. Now I'm a professional community organizer, and I am the founder of Community to Community Development. I want to thank you, all the leadership of the Equity Commission and the leadership of EYA and other Latino leaders in Yakama County for this invitation, and I'm very proud to be here to speak on behalf of the farm worker community in Washington State. The mission of Community to Community Development is an optimistic mission because we believe that another world is possible and that we are active participants with other popular people's movements, and we strive to reclaim our humanity by redefining power in order to end settler colonialism, capitalism, and patriarchy, racism in their external and internalized forms. This is essential if farm workers in the United States and even in Washington State will be able to have a road towards liberation and equity in the food system. Brothers and sisters, you all eat. We all eat. And we all know what we like to eat based on our culture, on our income, on our families. We have an idea at Community to Community as farm workers, and by the way, we're also women-led until we decide that it is no longer necessary. So far, it doesn't mean we don't work with men, we do, because there's a lot of men in the world. That's how we fight patriarchy, is building those relationships towards equity for women. But we believe in food sovereignty, and we believe that as human beings, each one of us should have the sovereignty of eating what we like to eat, when we want to eat it, where we want to eat it, and that it makes us feel good. That food sovereignty is our ability to be able to access whatever food it is that we want and be secure in the knowledge that that food is good for you, that it's safe, that it's healthy, that you can access it, that you can share it, both in your family but also as community, because we believe that social justice, liberation is built around the table, sharing food. Every culture has that. And that's our belief in building food sovereignty. And the fight to get to that as a farm worker has been a hard fight. We're not there yet. But we also, I agree with the previous speaker, as farm workers, we believe in the concept of si se puede. And you've all heard that for many years. I'm speaking in Yakama, at the heart of the agricultural industry, at the heart of my community. And I want to mention some names because these are shoulders of leaders, farm worker leaders in this area that I have known, that I have worked with, that have struggled for their own liberation and their own safety in this corporate industrialized agricultural system that is rampant in Eastern Washington. Tomás Villanueva, the first president of the first farm worker union in Washington State. Estela Ferrer, Rosa Guerrero, Olivia Herrera, Gonzalo Montejano, José Ángel de la Cruz, Pastor Mejía, Juan Martín Ríos, Gerardo Ríos, Virginio Flores, Chaconcito. These are the leaders of the first independent farm worker union in Washington State that organized, fought for, and won a collective bargaining agreement at Chateau Saint Michel Columbia Crest Wines in 1995. That contract was signed. It is still in place. It is the largest winery, probably on the West Coast. Drink the wine. It is union wine. It was hard fought. I was the organizer with these workers, and that is a huge victory in Eastern Washington. It's a huge victory for farm workers across the state. They have a retirement plan. They're retiring right now with retirement benefits. A short story, in their contract, Cesar Chavez's birthday is a paid holiday. That's here in Sunnyside, in Washington State, at Chateau Saint Michel. The first year the contract was signed, Virginio Flores walked into our office in Sunnyside and sat underneath the Virgen of Guadalupe. And I said, Virginio, we called him Vicky, ¿qué estás haciendo aquí? What are you doing? Because it was a work day. I forgot. It was Cesar Chavez's birthday. He said, I don't have to work today, and I'm going to sit here in the organization that won me my first paid farm worker holiday as a farm worker. So I'm gonna go on. José Ramírez, Benito Flores, Octavia Santiago, Tomás Ramón, Lázaro Matamoros, y Alfredo Juárez. Those are the leaders of the newest farm worker union in Washington State, Familias Unidas por la Justicia. That is the union that negotiated with the growers, that did the lobby work, that talked to legislators to ensure that the bill that implemented and mandated overtime pay for farm workers in Washington State passed. And that is, this year, farm workers will be able to earn overtime after 40 hours a week. After generations of poverty for farm workers in Washington State, and we are being attacked for it, that union, the industry, is working hard to talk farm workers into believing that overtime is bad for them, that it's costing too much money for the growers to pay that overtime. And we will once again, probably in this legislative season, fight the industry with new bills that they're bringing in to try to change the overtime pay for farm workers in Washington State. In 1984, Cesar Chavez started a very important address at the Commonwealth Club in California. He said, on a lonely road near Salinas, 32 bracero farm workers lost their lives in a tragic incident. The braceros had been imported from Mexico to work on California farms, and most of the bodies lay unidentified for days. No one, including the grower who employed the workers, even knew their names. This was 1984. Today, the average life expectancy, he said today, farm workers' average life expectancy is still 49 years, compared to 73 years for the average American. That was 1984. This is 2024. The average life expectancy of farm workers in the United States, what do you think it is now? It's the same. Today, the average life expectancy of a farm worker in the United States is 49. So tell me, how can we expect to have a healthy food system when those who are picking your food are being denied some very basic rights? What is food security for all of us when even during the pandemic, the farm workers very close into the pandemic, we were declared essential. And the farm workers I work with came to me and said, Rosalinda, ¿qué quiere decir eso? What does that mean? We're essential. Are we gonna get a raise? Are they gonna raise the minimum wage for farm workers? Do we get a medical plan? No. It meant that farm workers had to continue working in the fields during the pandemic because the governor and other political people were saying we need food security and we need to keep the agricultural industry functioning. And I question myself, is it really for healthy food for all of you to eat? Or is it so the agricultural industry's profits will not be disturbed during the pandemic? With climate change happening at the same time and severe climate incidents, farm workers kept working during the pandemic and they died. We did the best that we could in trying to talk to the agricultural industry to implement protections for farm workers during the pandemic, including the H-2A workers that were here. Caesar addressed also, he warned us in 1984 in that same address. He said the growers have no one to blame by themselves for ravaging the land with all the pesticides, herbicides, soil fumigants, the fertilizers, and salt deposits from thoughtless irrigation, from creating a monocropping, industrializing production, and most of all, the profit making that needs to happen in the production of food. And is this the kind of food system we want? No. We as farm workers are saying this is wrong because we're seeing the damage done to our bodies with pesticides and chemicals. So what I want to talk to you about today is that we need a food system that's safe for all of us. Our lives depend on it. Your grandchildren's lives, your children's lives. Our food system today is almost non-existent because what we talk about is industrial agriculture and profit. Thousands of acres, I don't know how many, I'm sure it's over 10, 15, I don't know how many thousands of acres of apples are produced in the state of Washington. That is not a food system. That's an export industry that needs farm workers to harvest all of those apples. And I want to talk to you today about our biggest fight that we have, porque sí se puede. And farm workers have always taken on these big fights. If we want to live beyond 49, we have to keep moving forward because you need healthy food, because we need good jobs. So the H-2A guest worker program. The H-2A program, and I'm taking this opportunity because there's so many of you with this very important message about the H-2A program. It is the direct descendant of an industry-founded, an agricultural industry founded with slave labor on stolen land. This is a federal program with communities that destroys communities of farm workers already living in the United States who have labored to put food on the country's tables for decades, that has made Washington state agricultural industry powerful politically and rich economically. While growers are not supposed to replace resident workers with H-2A workers, they devise ways to manipulate the system. This is what we work with. the so-called adverse impact wage floor, in reality, that's set for H-2A workers. These are imported workers coming in mostly from Mexico and Haiti. This wage floor functions to keep farm worker wages just slightly above the minimum wage, making poverty the normal and permanent condition for farm worker families. This is a normal and permanent condition that farm workers have been in for generations. The speakers before that are collecting data, that are standing up to oppression, inspire me to speak to you actually more frankly than I had written down. Because I understood from the beginning, you are my allies. The agricultural industry has a culture of retaliation and is an infrastructure that is based on racism from slavery. We are the descendants, us, Mexican farm workers like myself from Texas, from northern Mexico, and now from Guerrero and Oaxaca. We are the descendants of this shameful slavery that the United States has had. We are the descendants of that because we have lived it. The industry needs to compete with other employers and pay decent wages with benefits to produce food for everybody. And I come because in 2017 in Whatcom County, where we were organizing, a young farm worker died on an H-2A labor camp in Sumas, Washington. He died of impacts from smoke over the fields in the peak of the blueberry season, from massive dehydration, and the impact on his body because he had diabetes, from working outside in the smoke with no masks, no protection, and not enough water in over 100-degree weather during 5 weeks of the peak blueberry season. Honesto Silva Ibarra died under this organizer's watch. And we swore in our organization that this program, this federal H-2A program that imported him and 500 other farm workers from Mexico into our county to treat them in that manner and to take his life has got to be stopped. It has got to be held accountable in Washington State. So my message is that this program has existed. Where's my notes here? Sorry. Since the early 1900s, when it began in the South, when the Black folks, our brothers and sisters, refused to, those who fought back, moved north to get decent jobs and began abandoning a lot of agricultural jobs in the South. They brought in Black workers, a first iteration of this program where they imported Black workers from Haiti to work in the South in cheap, slave-like wages. And then next, they brought more in during World War I. Again, when there was a need for workers in the agricultural industry, they brought in more workers from Haiti and Jamaica. And in World War II, they brought us, the Mexican farm workers from south of the border, to work on the farms so that the young men in the United States could go fight Hitler. We worked on US farms to keep the agricultural industry going. And now in Washington State today, let me give you the numbers. I guess this is why you should have PowerPoint. Oh, here it is. Because I could just say, next slide, please. So in Washington State in 2009, there were 2,092 H-2A workers imported into Washington State, mostly in the Eastern Washington. In 2014, that number had gone up to 9,047, mostly in Eastern Washington, Yakama area. Today, as of this month, in 2024, there are 34,933 imported guest workers, pretty much from Mexico, 300 Haitians in Brewster. 13,200 of those 34,000 are in the Columbia Basin. In Yakama, right here, there are 6,314 workers. In Whatcom and Skagit County, where we've put up a ferocious fight to stop the import, there are 339. Too many. Each one of those numbers represents a job lost by one of the local farm workers in your area. That payroll is being exported to the home country of where those workers came from. That means our community is unable to spend a good, honest payroll in your community, in the grocery stores, paying rent, participating in community events, owning their own homes. It is a threat to the economic well-being of farm workers in Washington state. And I'm here, we left, Isaac and I, stand up Isaac, he's an amazing executive assistant. We left at 5 o'clock this morning so I could be here to give you this message. This is important. Again, 40 years later, after Cesar Chavez gave that address to the Commonwealth Club of California, Cesar was driven by one dream, one goal, one vision, to overthrow, and these are his, this is a quote, to overthrow a farm labor system in this nation which treats farm workers as if they were not important human beings. I tell you, me and the leaders of Familias Unidas por la Justicia and hundreds, if not thousands of other farm workers have the same dream. Interacting and being part of my community day in and day out with the Farm Worker Union, I can see and feel them seizing control of their own lives, developing their own visions through organizing and building solidarity with one another and with you. Farm workers are not machines, people. You know that. But the powerful, rich, agricultural growers, the owners of big farms like Stamills and others, they think we can just work forever. They've said that we can actually, farm workers, Mexican people can withstand higher temperatures working outside because we're built for that. That was their argument for lowering the trigger for the heat rules in agriculture. That we are not beasts of burden to be used and discarded. We are human beings. We are fighting for our dignity. We are an important part of the food system and are on the front line of climate change. We will not be treated like agricultural implements for profit. We call on all of you to stand with us. These are the things that we need you to look at in the Equity Commission. We need to move pesticide monitoring and enforcement from the Washington State Department of Ag to the Health Department. You talk about a lack of data. We have to prove we're poisoned by pesticides because there is no decent data collection for pesticide impacts, the cumulative impacts on the human body in the fields. I ask everyone at this conference today to truly stand with farm workers in a state in protecting our food system and our future. I ask you to demand that the Department of Labor and Industry opt into the HEAL Act. I ask you to demand that the Department of Commerce fund farm worker projects like farm worker-led, worker-owned co-ops in agriculture so that we can show you how food should be produced. We have our own co-op at our organization. Brothers and sisters, if there ever was a place where you can be bold and a system that needs to be dismantled, It is the corporate industrial mono-agricultural industry in Washington state. And it needs to be rebuilt into a just and healthy local food system. We have the leadership to build that system, and we're ready to work with you. Thank you very much for listening to me and for your time. Stop the H-2A program.
Thank you so much. Wow. Oh, wow. Give it up one more time, y'all, for Rosalinda Guillen. I am so moved and motivated and ready to be bold and be a part of change. Are y'all? Well, now you have some time to really allow these messages from our community presenters who are doing this work on the ground to resonate with you as we move into lunch. Again, we have our meat options over here, meatloaf and chicken, and we have our vegetarian option and our salad bar over here. Please enjoy your lunch, and we'll return at 1 p.m. Thank you so much.